Welcome to Chef Richard's Kitchen. I'm Chef Richard Miller. Today we're going to make an appetizer. Actually, I'm hoping we're going to get a chance to make a couple of them. And one of the easiest appetizers to make is just crostini. And really all crostini is, you've seen it, it's just a little piece of bread that's pretty much been dried out and then with a topping put on it. And the first thing I want to do is, the first one is I want to do a crostini with Brie and Prosciutto ham. And for the Brie, I'm using Camembert cheese. And we'll get into that, in just a minute. The first thing we want to do, though, is we want to make our crostini. And what I'm doing for this, and you don't usually see me with an electric knife, but for thin cuts like this, where you have to make it extremely uniform, yeah, I use it. So let me cut a few of these. When you get down to the end where you're cutting on that little slope, watch your fingers very, very carefully, because on the electric knife, it doesn't take much to cut off a finger. So let's see, what do we got here? 4, 8, 12. We got about 15 right here, and I want to go ahead and cut the others up. So I'm going to stop the tape here. Go ahead and cut those up, and as soon as I get that, then we're going to come back and take the next step. So I'll be right back. Okay, now what I'm doing is I'm laying these slices of the baguette. It's just a French baguette, is all it is. I'm putting these in a baking sheet on foil, and like everything else, I spray it with a little bit of vegetable oil. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take just a little bit of olive oil, and brush this on each. Alright, now that we've got our olive oil brushed on these, and I just put a little thin layer on there. It's not much. It's just enough to kind of just give it a little coating, a little taste. Now, you're going to see in some of these, you're going to see in holes in baguettes. And that's perfectly normal. And that's all right. We'll deal with that. If it turns out to be too big, for the cheese, when you take and stick it in the oven for just a second to soften it, then we'll use a different one. But other than that, these look just fine. So I set the stove over there to preheat, and it's preheating up to 275. And it's not quite there yet. Why that? Well, the thing we want to do with crostini is we kind of want to dry them out so they're crunchy in there. Not totally crunchy, because I like just a little softness in there. But you don't want to toast them either. So that's why I'm sticking it at about 275 degrees. Then we'll put them in there for, probably about 5 minutes, and then go ahead and flip them over and, do another 5 on there. And by that time, they'll pretty much be done. Then we can go ahead and start the next phase of it. So, as soon as the oven gets up to 275, I'll be right back. See you then. All right, the preheat button just went off, or the tone. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to stick these in the oven. I'm going to set the timer. Let's go 5 or 6 minutes, something like that. They won't be done by any stretch at that point, but I'd rather catch them a little early and say I need a little bit more time than stick my head in there and find out they're just dried to a crisp and have to do it over again. So let me go ahead and put these in the oven now. Okay, it's in there for about 5 minutes. I'll check them after that, and once again, I'm going to put you on hold. But don't go far. As much as I put you on hold over these episodes, I always come back. And I'll do it this time too. Alright, the final count was 10 minutes on the side that had the olive oil on it. I flipped it over and I gave it 6 minutes on the other side. And that's just about where we want it. Now the nice thing about doing this at an oven that's on 275 degrees is you can do these by fingers. Of course, I've burnt my fingers so many times anyway. Now, we've gone ahead and we flipped them over. Now I want to do one more thing here before I put the cheese on. And then we're just going to flash them a little bit, under the heat again. I do want to take and put just a little bit of honey. we have the honey put on these, and now it's time we go ahead and we want to put a little bit of our cheese on. Now, while I was waiting for these to cook, I cut up the cheese in about 3/16 thick by about an inch square. Okay, I got the cheese on, and I ended up with just a couple, that really there wasn't enough cheese for. So, very crunchy. You can taste the bread, and you can taste the honey. Not so much the olive oil, but you're not supposed to taste that. That's just kind of for a little coating on there. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take these and I'm going to put them back in the oven, and I'm just going to let this cheese soften a little bit, and then we'll be back. We're going to put our prosciutto and garnish them. So now, for the age-old question, I get this asked every once in a while. When you deal with a Brie cheese, it always has the rind or that mold on it, and that's perfectly fine. The question usually comes up, do you leave it or remove it? Well, it depends. Don't you love those, definite maybe answers? It depends. If it's one of those that's a very thick rind, and you can definitely taste the texture of it, I scrape it off. And what I do when I scrape it off, I just take a knife, a butter knife, and just scrape it off. Now, some people say that, the taste on that is just a little, not really bitter, but it has a good, pronounced taste. Some people say that actually helps it with the taste, and I kind of agree. So, if it's just a small, amount on there, leave it on there. If you're going to put puff pastry around it, probably leave it. In this case, the people I'm preparing these for aren't a real big fan of that. And so, in this case, I just scraped it off. Because remember, when it all comes down to it, who are we actually, who are we cooking for? That's right, our guests. If they like it better off it comes. If they like it better on to give it a more robust taste, then we'll leave it on. But your guest has to be the one that you think of there. I set the timer at 4 minutes, and that's just because I want to soften the cheese, not completely melt it into a puddle. I just want to soften it to kind of settle it in a little bit. Then we'll put the prosciutto, and we'll put a little piece of thyme on the top of that. Then we'll be ready, to taste it, see how we did. So, we'll see you in about 3.5 minutes. All right, they just came out of the oven. I'll show this on the detail camera right now. But as you can see, they're not really melted in there, but they are softened quite a bit. And so now what I want to do is I just want to take a little bit of my prosciutto ham and I want to put that, and you notice I've cut this into strips. You kind of have to be careful because prosciutto ham as you probably well know, is extremely thin. Now when you see you're going to have some prosciutto left over, go back and put a little bit more on some of those that look like they just didn't quite get enough. Okay, now we have our prosciutto on here. Now it's time for the last part. All right, now, if you find that you're having problems with these wanting to stay where you put them, just take your brush. Remember the honey? All right, now we can go back and put our thyme on there. Can you use other? Sure. There's a piece of parsley. Here's a little flat leaf Italian parsley. have some with thyme pieces, some with parsley, and some with Italian flat parsley. So, now, you tell me. Put me a comment or send me an email at chefrdmiller@att.net and tell me which ones you like best. Should we just stay with the thyme? Should we put the parsley or the Italian flat leaf parsley? Or do you have any other suggestions for a little green garnish on top? So, let's go ahead, and we have one last thing to do, and that's plate. And what I'm doing here is I just have some greens on here, and I thought, well, we'll just go ahead and put these on a plate. When I serve these for guests, I'm going to have them on quite a bit bigger plate than this, because there's going to be quite a few more people. All right, and here we go. This is crostini with a Brie and Prosciutto, topping on them. So there's one last thing we have to do. Very good. You taste the crostini, you taste the honey, you definitely taste the brie, and you get the subtle taste of the prosciutto. So, all in all, I think it's turned out very well. I wouldn't be afraid to serve this to anyone. In fact, on Christmas Day, I'm going to be serving this to a lot of people. So, go ahead, give it a try. Please, I hope you do. Give it a try and let me know how yours comes out. If you have any suggestions, think of other things that could be, added, subtracted, whatever, let me know. In the meantime, go out and give a thumbs up if you like this. Even better, subscribe so you get notified of the rest of my videos. So, once again, take care, people. God bless. Remember that cooking should always be fun. And I'll see you next episode. Bye for now.